So our next speaker is Susan Thomas. Susan's a pastor with the fellowship, and she has served on our pastoral council for many years. She's been on the board of directors in the past, and she served as a Sunday school teacher for the children. And so she's been with the church since right after Paul moved up from Georgia to Virginia. She was 24 years old at that point. And for people, when she comes up, will observe she's no longer 24 years old. But she's still young in looks and heart and presentation. And she's going to be talking about my gratitude for a happy, healing time with the Fellowship of the Inner Light for 49 years. Susan Thomas.
It's good to see everybody today, both in person, and hello to all the people who are Zooming. And I wanted to acknowledge all of these audio-visual people and sound system people and people working with the Zoom, because they've been doing quite a dance today with all the unexpected problems and changes. Kind of like the weather, life, you know. But they've really risen to the occasion, and I want to name them in case not everyone knows who's doing this. We're going to thank Dick Dingus, and we're going to thank Jerry Teplitz, and Jack Sontag, and Lloyd Kramer, and Matt Kaiser, who helped from the distance, and others. Like, I don't even know who all of them are. But let's give them a hand for the dance they've been doing. Yes, modern technology is wonderful, except when it's not working. So, and it's one of those, it's a stress of a sort, and everything Rob talked about is helpful with dealing with that or recovering from the stress of the stress. So it's all good. And I think we could use a little levity, all of us in our lives, and certainly today. And I happened to come across a page that I've shared with Sharon Solomon and Judy Midget, and it's how many Christians does it take to change a light bulb? She's already laughing. I'm not going to do the whole page, but the one at the end, Judy Midget thinks sounded like us, and I think you'll enjoy this. So the question is, how many Christians does it take to change a light bulb? And the Unitarian Universalists say, we choose not to make a statement either in favor of or against the need of a light bulb. However, if in your own journey you have found that light bulbs work for you, you are invited to write a poem or compose a modern dance about your light bulb for the next Sunday service, in which we will explore a number of light bulb traditions, including incandescent, fluorescent, three-way, long life, and tinted, all of which are equally valid paths to luminescence. So indeed, we have the inner light, the outer light, and the inner and outer zooming. Indeed. So Jerry's already mentioned how long I've been here and my age, so you can tell I'm 73 now. And I heard some kids say we should say about our age instead of years, just we're at level, like the games they play. You know, so each of you is level whatever, and I have now made level 73. So Stephen Haslam mentioned that he came to the fellowship because of his parents. Well, my mother is directly responsible for me being here. Well, obviously getting me to the earth, but I'm talking about to the Fellowship of the Inner Light. She really honored intuition as a spiritual gift from God, was very open-minded Methodist. I had a great time in the Methodist church growing up. People were kind, loving, focused on the positive. And she went to a Methodist conference in Blackstone, Virginia. And she met a young woman who got to know her and who lived at 78th Street in a winter rental with 3 other girls, and they were looking for another roommate. And I had gone home to be with my mother after college because my father was dying and then he died. But it was time for me to be able to do something else. and my brothers and sisters were fine. So anyway, she got back, and I got in touch with the people at 78th Street and met with them, and they would be wonderful housemates, and they liked me. And another girl had also called them, so they had to interview her. And so they liked us both, so they said, we'll just have to draw your names out of a hat to see which one gets to be our housemate, and they drew me. So I'm at 78th Street, living there, and at the time I was one of 4 teachers we were starting the orchestra program with strings in the Virginia Beach public schools, and it was a pilot program after school, so I didn't have to be there till 3 o'clock. And I had about an hour to spare, and every voice in me went off and said, go sit in the sand dune right now. So I sat on the sand dune and on a blanket, and the next thing I know, this big white fluffy dog comes running along, just a precious dog, and acted like it was my long lost friend, but he ran over everything. He was a big clumsy dog. And the guy said, oh, I'm sorry, let me help pick up the stuff. I said, that's fine. And he introduced himself. He was an astrologer from Atlanta named David Rayleigh. And he had come with Paul Solomon to Seahorse Inn on 78th Street to start in Virginia Beach having the Fellowship of the Inner Light. And a light went off just hearing about it, and he told me about the Sunday service, and I told Billy Thomas, and we went to that first service, and for whatever reason, when I was there, I just knew I was home. I had found my extended spiritual family to be with, to support, to learn with, and so forth. And I was extremely happy about that, and I have remained extremely happy about that. And in some ways, when you get involved with an organization, it's kind of like a marriage. You've got the old vows, it's for better and worse, richer and poorer, sickness and health, because every individual has their ups and downs, and so do organizations. Well, because we have love and we have a purpose, we pull together and we make things work, and we evolve and we continue. And to me, it's always a wonderful miracle. And to not lose sight of all of those miracles that happen daily and weekly and monthly. I ran across something I wrote when we were asked, the pastors, I think, were asked about, it was 15, 18 years ago, if we felt like it to write down our vision of the Fellowship of the Inner Light. And I found this page, and so I'm going to read to you what I wrote about 18 years ago. And this is what I really felt. To me, the Fellowship of the Inner Light is a state of consciousness. It has existed before we were ever born. It will continue when we are no longer here on the earth. The local church in Virginia Beach and the whole entity called the Fellowship of the Inner Light is a part of the expression of that consciousness. Paul Solomon, our founder, tuned into that expression and helped to manifest a place where people could learn and grow and evolve and love unconditionally. This place was intended to be a beacon of light in this world. It is my vision that this Fellowship of the Inner Light will continue to be a beacon of light in this world. Actually, I rather suspect that it is also a light for all worlds, known and unknown. As they say, the veil is very thin. I see this wonderful place as a womb, a place where people can gather to inspire and be inspired, a place where people can be recognized as being divine, a place where we can encourage others to be who they really are. This is a place that exists in cooperation, not competition. This is one of the light organizations in the world that encourages a new paradigm, and how blessed we all are to be a part of this spiritual experience. So I feel that very, very strongly. And we've already heard from many other people about how we've been in different buildings and we're here now, and how Paul traveled all over the world. That's one of the things I appreciated Of course, all the people and all the teachings and inner light consciousness and the readings, but also because Paul traveled and he taught and assisted in all over the world, we met people from everywhere. And most of the people in this room weren't born here. So I have met people from all over the world who are fellow sojourners and fellow light workers. And I feel truly rich and truly blessed. It's like, how did we find each other? Is not that one of the miracles to say thank you to? I mean, we've had people here from Europe, Russia, South Africa, Great Britain, Japan, Thailand, Canada, Australia, and all kinds of places that I've never traveled to. But somehow we all came together. And we continue, and then people come in and they go out to go where they're drawn to give what they have to give, and new people are drawn in. And it's a beautiful place to learn, grow, and recharge our batteries. I want to share with you some of the things I'm really thankful for that Paul Solomon shared with us. And some of the stuff I'm going to share with you, Paul Solomon said to me just 2 weeks before he passed away. And some of the things he said that stuck with me through the years, he has said many times in different lectures and different classes, and just sitting around like we're doing now, like in a living room. So, and some good things bear repeating. Paul said, all tools that lead to health, healing, and happiness are indeed wonderful. Find your tools to put in your toolbox. Develop the use of them, apply them, and appreciate the results. He put out a red flag. A big caution is that we should not worship the tools. They are stepping stones to the truth. We must not make of them dogma, which then negates their use and value. It is inappropriate to try to force them on someone else. Then the so-called New Age stuff becomes dogma, like some of the, what we call the Old Age stuff. So it's a very interesting human situation where people might tend to do that. And he really emphasized that spirituality is not a contest, and you don't get graded, and everybody gets there. There's no end goal. There is no final perfection. And that everything we do is spiritual because we're spirit. So we don't need to dissect it and say, this is spiritual, this is not spiritual. We are spiritual when we work, when we play, when we sleep, when we wake, eat, have fun, and so forth. It was intended by the source of our being that we frolic in creation and have a good time in this earthly school while we're learning. God didn't create misery. We might have seen it as a shiny object. Oh, let me check that out, So maybe we can redo our thinking and what we create and co-create. The inner light consciousness tools are intended to address all the areas of your life, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're washing dishes, driving in traffic, sitting down meditating, praying, sleeping, or whatever. And the 7 terraced garden meditation helps to prepare you for the deep meditation at that top of the mountain. Now, the thing that really is moving for me is how I got to see Paul 2 weeks before he passed at his house, and I spent time with him. And he told me that he used to think that his main mission was to teach people how to meditate. Then, he said, he realized that meditation is indeed a wonderful tool and activity that leads to expressions of love and spirit and gets the information we need from Source. But he realized his main calling was to teach people about what love really is. We have so many misperceptions or misunderstandings of what love is. And he wanted, more than anything, to teach people to love themselves and therefore their source and others. and that anything that would lead to that, any tool, including inner light consciousness, meditating, it's all part of it. But that his main thing was to focus on what sounds so simple, but yet it's so powerful and complex. Paul encouraged people to ask themselves, is this the loving thing to do or think? He suggested that in most of what we do daily, we take things out of going right or wrong, the duality thing in the world, and instead look for what works that is loving and that X's nobody out, not you or the other people or your source. And he also emphasized that peace comes when we drop our preconceived notions, even though they're good notions, so that we can open to new understandings and new growth. I love the sense of humor. Some of you have experienced Paul's sense of humor. How many of you have done that? Let me see hands in here. Anybody heard a lot of his funny stuff? He indeed had a sense of humor. My own children often, they have fond memories of when he got them laughing, and that laughter is a good medicine. Indeed. Paul came, he did a lot of healing with people and was so giving and loving, and I am thankful for that. He once came to my apartment when my daughter Leah was only 3 years old, and she had a high fever, and he wanted to check her out and talk to her. And I remember she had this look on her face like, who's that, when he came in the door. And he went over to her, and she really accepted him into her bubble. And he said, give her chocolate milk and she'll be just fine. And so we did, but it was like that was the vehicle, and it worked. And so for at least a year, she said, Paul Solomon said I should have chocolate milk every day. She saw him, she saw where he came from, and if he said it, boy, that must be the thing, And there was a time, and I know Sharon Solomon remembers this, when Leah was an infant, and she was small, just a few months old, and she was suddenly screaming. I mean, we could hardly hold her. She moved so much with pain. And he took his hands, he realized there was a blockage in her belly, and he put his hands on her, and she calmed right down. And he had sensed something was wrong before he even saw us. We were out of town, walking down in what's that place? Carmel, in the valley, when we went to a conference, and we were trying to go to it, and this happened while we were walking. He sent Stephen Haslam out to see what was wrong. He just sensed something was wrong. And Stephen could see the screaming of the infant. And so he always lived in the now while planning for the future. He did a very good job of that. And my daughter Jennifer, the younger daughter, she used to tell me at home, and she never told me what, but she said, Paul Solomon gives me information. And I said, really? And she said, yes. And she always had this little blanket she carried everywhere with her when she was little, and she called it her Nani blanket. And she said to me, Paul Solomon needs a Nani blanket. We have to get him one. And she said he should have one because of all the stuff he does. And she told me, and she was 4, I think, when she told me this, that people do not always understand him, and that she wants people to listen to him. So, from the mouths of babes, I had a lot of wonderful, fun things with my children. I've been reminiscing a lot over the last few years, and as we get older, we all tend to do that, and certainly during our 50th here. And so I'm fondly thinking of people I haven't seen in a long time, and some that are here that's so good to see, who I haven't seen in forever, it seems like. I have 2 excerpts from Paul Solomon readings that jumped out at me. I mean, have you all done that? I'm sure you open a book and whoa, it's what you need right now, whether it's the Bible or some other book. All right, well, this is an excerpt where he is giving us information about what he would like to charge us with. He's left a legacy here of love and intention, and he's charging us with our job as who we are. as individuals and as the fellowship of the inner light. And he gives us a challenge too. And I think you'll like this. The one reading is an excerpt from reading 9392 that was done in 1991. And these are the exact words of his source. Let yourself be true to both your credo and to the teachings that you have to offer. Let it be a central and primary purpose of your organization, of your building, of your activity. Honor the wealth that is in inner light consciousness, and in doing so, let those who have doubts know that there is a fulfilling of a prophecy here. Edgar Cayce planted a seed and blazed a trail and said clearly, Paul will enter the work. Paul has entered the work, and for a specific purpose. Edgar Cayce introduced to the world in a magnificent way the possibility that man can set aside completely his own consciousness, his own mind and opinions, and can be a channel for the divine. The next step in that work is that one should come as Paul has come to say to others, you also have such access to the source. I'm going to repeat that one to remind us. You also have access to the source. Why do you fear those who teach that they should gain too much authority or power? Cannot you watch and see that you take your own responsibility to be the author of your life? Giving honor and respect to all those who develop the ability to inspire, let them be called reverend, though the term has been so dragged in the dirt, perhaps you should call them guides in this time, and be more meaningful in doing so. And still give them love and respect. Give all teachers respect. But make it not a cult, never a cult. And never obedience to this channel. He does not command obedience. Let this fellowship remain true to its roots, its foundation. Let it ever be known that here is a method tried and true. Have you not the inclination to gather from around the world? For it does exist. The testimony is in the difference in the lives of people. Did not the Apostle Paul collect even that in his writing of 1st and 2nd Corinthians, and indeed all of his writings? Paul spoke of those whose lives were changed as his credentials. So these are the credentials for the fellowship of the inner light. You have techniques that work, not dogma that works, not dogma that binds, but techniques which liberate. Honor these liberating teachings. Stand for something. Be a family, yes, across the world and across cultures and interfaith, but not without a highly honored and highly regarded teaching. This building here has been used for a place of meeting, of amusement, and of dilution of its foundation at times, the critical dismantling of it where it was possible by those experiencing jealousies and menial expressions of lack of self-worth. Know that we are not victims of this. Know that recognition of Christ, who gives you worth within yourself, is the foundation of this very building. Clearly stand for something. You can extend friendships to all who, as your credo suggests, wish to worship with you, and you can love those who choose not to worship with you. But do not invite those who would defame the character of this fellowship or its teachings or even its methods. Let those not show their wares in this temple. Did not Christ cast out those who would do such? Is it not your duty to do so today? Those who would be leeches and parasites upon the growth of this vine should be pruned off, and that with certainty. clearly, at the same time, reach out to those who have something to offer. Have guest speakers, but carefully select them. There are built into inner light consciousness those techniques that will cause any individual who practices them to grow out of codependence and the need for guru worship around Paul Solomon or any other. Know that this is a system of support for getting the message that has been channeled through Paul Solomon to the world, which needs to be done. And the challenge, and I really love this one, is from Christ Alive Today, and we'll be closing with this. This gives a lot of food for thought, recognizing the Christ in each of us and the evolution of that. What happens when a few children of light choose to express love and nothing else? We do not know because it has never happened in recorded history. We do know what happens when a single individual expresses only love. The expression of God who was Christ living and walking among us 2,000 years ago totally changed the course of history. What would happen if there were 100 Christs alive today expressing God as Christ? It would likely produce a new heaven and a new earth. Does it seem possible that you could have 100 expressions of the Christ that could live on the earth today? If it's not possible to have 100 expressions, how about one? How about you? And I would like to close right now with some words from Hildegard von Bingen, who lived 900 and some years ago. And she's certainly, as a soul, one of our fellow sojourners in our spiritual family. And remember this, no matter what else we figure out with our finite brains, or with how we do Zoom or anything else, those things we have to do in life. She says, God hugs you. You are encircled by the arms of the mystery of God. God's power is not abstract or vengeful, but maternal, loving, and a deeply personal power. It's compassionate power. God planted the seeds, and we are growing. And nobody has the power to divide this circle or make it go away. Love is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's here to stay. And I'm thankful to study and learn and grow with that, with this wonderful family, the Fellowship of the Inner Light. So bless you all, and may we continue to frolic in creation. Thank you.